Welcome to the cityCURRENT Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. Our mission at cityCURRENT is to power the good, and we do that through positive media, events, and philanthropy. This show features interviews with a mix of business and community leaders who discuss important efforts, trends, lessons learned, and ways to get involved so we can learn more about our community and work together to make a difference. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to the cityCURRENT radio show. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta. Today's guest is Celene Aubry, director and shop manager at Hat Show Print, the iconic letterpress print shop continuously operating since 1879 in Nashville, Tennessee. Celene is the first woman to run the letterpress shop in its 140 plus year history. Celene, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to tell stories about this great place.
Give viewers a quick history for the nearly 150-year-old print shop and its vast collection of vintage type and hand-carved imagery.
So the shop opened in 1879 here in Nashville. It was founded by two brothers, Charles and Herbert. And just to give you context, 1879 is the same year that Albert Einstein was born, and it's the same year that the light bulb was patented. So when they opened the shop, there actually wasn't any electricity here in Nashville. We make the posters today the exact same way that they made them in 1879. We carry on the traditions. Here at Hat Show Print, the design component for all of our work has never left the shop. So we still, to this day, design everything we print, and we only print what we design here in the shop. And we're still using wood type, handset wood type, handset metal type, that the two brothers, Charles and Herbert, purchased and made because they were both very skilled wood carvers, made here in the shop when they were running the shop. And then Charles's son, Will T., when he took over the shop in 1921 or so, carried on the tradition with the wood type and the hand carving of the blocks. And everything that you'll see on a Hatch poster, from the wood type to the imagery, a lot of it originates, the graphic elements or the hand carved imagery, not the photographs per se, but the hand carved imagery, the creation of all of that, or pretty much all of that, originates here in the shop with the designers, even up till today. So for instance, right now, as we're chatting, I know that one of the staff in the shop is actually working on carving a fresh block for some posters that he will be printing probably next week or the week after, and he's carving it in linoleum. We don't always carve in wood today. We sometimes carve in linoleum, and it's literally floor tile that hasn't been waxed or polished, but it makes a great printing surface. And so he's carving that today. He'll use it next week, and then it's something that we can, just like all of the wood type that we have, that some of which is 150 plus years old, same with the metal type, and some of the hand-carved blocks that we still use, we can continue to use those blocks for years and years and years and years, decades, hopefully, on other posters when that image or graphic element makes sense for another poster design or another project. What we do is letterpress printing, which most simply put is letters pressed into paper with ink in between. And all of our presses date, we have presses that are 100, and we have one that is from 1896. That's probably our oldest press. And then we have some presses from the early 1960s, and those are our youngest presses. And we still use and we maintain those presses ourselves. Today, the posters aren't necessarily meant as advertisements, much like they were when Charles and Herbert and then Will T. were running the shop, because up until about the mid 20th century, the dominant medium was print for advertising, and the dominant process was letterpress printing. You know, books, posters, business cards, letterhead, ephemera, all of that was letterpress printed. Most of it was letterpress printed. Now the posters don't have to tell you or sell you. We carry these little things in our pockets, these cell phone things that have way too much information on them for us to consume. But since those things help us find out when our favorite artists are playing and where they're playing, the posters don't have to do that for you anymore. They get to celebrate the event, whether it's a live show at a venue or somebody's wedding or a trade show or a conference or a meeting or something like that, or an anniversary of the business or something like that. So now the posters are more commemorative, and we get to have a lot of fun with the graphics, the visuals, and the color. So, and that's what we do.
I think one of the coolest parts about Hat Show Print is that it's a working museum per se, and you can tour it on site at the Historic Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. What can visitors see and learn when they come to Hatch?
Well, we're working in the shop, 5 days a week. We still operate as a business, even though we are part of the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. We continue operating as a letterpress, poster, and design shop because part of our mantra or motto is preservation through production. And what that means for us as a living museum is that we continue to use the materials and the equipment, and that preserves the legacy and the lifespan of the process and of the materials and the equipment, and then getting our work out in the world preserves people's awareness of it and hopefully appreciation for it. And so people can see us actually working on the posters and printing the posters. Most of our presses line the outside of our shop, which runs along the lobby here on Representative John Lewis Way here in downtown Nashville. And it's 80 feet of glass, so folks can stand outside the shop and watch as the posters come off the presses, which is the best part because that's when the color is all applied and the story is complete and you can see the full process. And then right now I'm sitting in what I call our mini print shop within a print shop. It's our classroom, and part of the tour is that you get to come in here and the walls are lined, as you can see, with the history of Hatch in print. Some of our posters and ads throughout the decades. And you learn about the history of the shop, but then you also get to hand ink and print a commemorative print to take home with you as part of the process. So you get to actually, try your hand at printmaking, which is great because it really gets you up close and personal with some of the materials that we're using every day in the print shop. And then later, probably later this fall, we'll start to add back in some of the other programming that we offer, some sort of free form hand printmaking on paper and fabric and things like that, using some of the blocks, both historic and recent, that we've carved in the shop. That gives folks an opportunity to get inky in a more free form and creative way, which is super fun for adults, especially on a Saturday night here in Nashville. Or Friday night. But yeah, that's part of the process. You get to check out what we're doing live and in person, and then see the results of our work. And in our gallery, you can see we have the opportunity to reprint some of our historic advertising art because it's just so classic and timeless. And you can see that in the gallery, and you can actually purchase it and take it home with you. And it's a pretty low price point for a, interesting piece of Nashville history and Hat Show Print history.
Are there any unique or fun stories that tie into Hat Show Print, whether about a design, musician, politician, or historical movement? I know you talked about some of those, like the Rolling Stones. Is there any celebrity per se that has stopped by and saw the process of their print being made, or any fun stories that tie along there?
What is fun is introducing our process to folks who might not have been familiar with it or are amazed that it still happens. We do get to work with another iconic and historic entity here in Nashville, the Ryman Auditorium. And they're a little younger than we are, but we've been working with them since they've opened in the late 1800s. And we typically do a poster for nearly every show that happens there. And so when somebody is appearing there and they either didn't fully grasp what it was that we were making for them, and then learn more about the process and then see their wall of posters there at the Ryman Auditorium, and they get it. And then they come and visit the shop and make the connection between how passionate we are about what we do and connecting through people through making posters that are both appealing but also tell stories, through color and design and things like that. They really hook into that creative process.
Being an institution around for so long, there are generations of families who have used Hat Show Print for their wedding invitations or for a corporate event year after year. Or you can look at the posters behind you, and there's so many huge historical events, but also those moments that are significant for, like you said, those smaller group of families. Like at our wedding, we had the iconic poster that y'all sell about, eat, drink, and be married. And so that's something that hangs up in our kitchen, and every day we remember that was at our wedding, and oh, by the way, it's a Hat Show Print. So I mean, it's really cool that there are so many tie-ins, both from a small, intimate perspective to the Rolling Stones. So it's really cool to see the history of Hat Show Print play in not only the American advertising history, but also families that look at it every day and see the importance in it. Where can people go to learn more about Hat Show Print? Y'all have a great video series. Talk about where people can learn online and then where they can go to see you in person.
Thank you for asking, first of all. We do have a pretty robust website, hatshowprint.com. There's a whole section, for those who are interested in the custom poster process, where we make a poster for their event or activity. It's called Custom Design, and you can find that on the website. There is a great section of cool videos taken inside the shop and out in the world. I'm remembering a couple years ago when we got our, circa 1948 neon sign repaired. We went down to Columbia, Tennessee, and filmed in the sign shop that we had worked with to have them repair that and bring it back to its full glory. So it runs the gamut in terms of videos, which is super fun. We also have a fun Instagram account. It's just at Hat Show Print. Here in Nashville, we are at 224 Representative John Lewis Way South, right in the same building as our brothers and sisters, shall I say, at the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. So it's kind of a one-stop destination. You can come and spend some time in the museum. They have some fabulous exhibits. You can take a tour of Studio B, which is the RCA recording studio where Elvis Presley recorded thousands of his hits, and Dolly Parton recorded and I think almost tried to demolish by accident her first day of recording, but I'll let them tell you that story. And then you could come to the shop and you can see us working and check out some of our gifts and things, and even take a hatch tour if you're interested. We offer those every day of the week, and see what else there is here in downtown Nashville, because the city's pretty vibrant these days.
Celene, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Honored to be with our next guest, Jennifer Bell. She is the director of the Academies of Nashville and Career and Technical Education at Metro Nashville Public Schools. How are you doing, Jennifer?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing very well. So we have a lot of good to talk about on your end with these academies that are really allowing students to fine-tune and develop in really powerful ways. And when you talk about career and technical opportunities as well, really, really cool what you're doing. But give us a little bit of history in terms of launching the academies and kind of bringing this to fruition.
Yeah, so we're celebrating our 15 years of the Academies of Nashville within our Metro Nashville Public Schools. And we're really one of the first school districts that said we're going to go wall to wall with academies. That means every student has an opportunity to engage in a pathway or an academy of their choosing, which was really unique in that educational structure. But 15 years ago, when we started looking at our graduation rates, we started looking at our discipline infractions, our attendance rates, and our student achievement, we knew that there had to be a change. It was a necessity. And so we had to look at how can we engage students and provide them with opportunities so that when they graduate out of our doors, they can go out and be successful, whether that be in college or in career. And so that's really where the Academies of Nashville were birthed 15 years ago. And that vision developed into a community-wide effort to really invest in the Nashville youth. The work that we're doing could not be done without the support of our business partners. It cannot be done without the support of our founders and our partnership councils. It is genuinely a community-driven effort.
Well, when you talk about hands-on opportunities, which we will with internships and job shadowing and, business and community leaders coming in and as public speakers and sharing their career and, the lessons they've learned, to your point, it very much is community infused, community engaged all throughout. So you have 35 different academies. I'm not going to ask you to list them all off the top of your head, but walk us through the variety of these academies.
Sure. So our academies are really designed when they were built to fruition. We really started looking at workforce. Where's those high demand, high wage, high skill jobs? And in doing so, we create these pathways. They look at them as if you're choosing a major when you're going into high school versus when you're going into college. And throughout those pathways, whether it is through an automotive, we have a lot of work in our STEM and engineering, digital design, journalism, healthcare. My list would go on and on because, like you said, there's over 35 of them. But it's designed to have something for everyone. And what's really cool about them is, let's say, for example, in my former experience, I was the principal of the Academy of Aviation and Transportation. I was actually afraid of flying, but I was still the principal of that academy. Now, what's unique about it is, even if the student completes their pathway through graduation and they choose, this is not the career that I want to venture out into, they still developed so many 21st century skills that were so applicable to whatever career choice they choose, that it is essentially a win no matter what direction they choose to go in. But we want to ensure that they've got the skills and they're also competitive. So if I go through the Academy of Aviation and I go on to the university level, ideally I'm already going to have some dual credit or some internship underneath my belt, which makes me more advanced to my peers who are also starting out in those same career majors.
It also, too, to your point on almost like choosing a major in college, it teaches them those independent skills as a youth in high school to be able to say, okay, I've got to make these choices. I've got to figure out what's best for me. And I've got to go in almost like that major and go down this path and make choices. And I think that's where at an earlier age, that becomes a really good confidence builder. So when they get to college, they're already in that mindset. And like you said, knowing that they can receive credit and get the dual enrollment, that's a cost savings for that student and that family, which is huge.
It is. And we're so grateful for the support of our university and colleges, from Nashville State to MTSU to TCAT, TSU, and so forth. There's so many opportunities for students to earn either those dual credits or those dual enrollment while they're still in high school, and they take those with them. In addition to that, then they have the industry certifications. You could exit out and go directly into the career force with an industry certification under your belt and be higher qualified in some of those high demand jobs.
How do you weave in the core components with the academy components, the specialized components? So in other words, the basics of the math and the reading and some of those core elements in with the obviously specialized classes. Talk about kind of weaving it all together and where the magic is created.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really kind of goes back to the birth of the Academies of Nashville, really designed around building stronger relationships. So much of student achievement, student success is founded in relationships. And so we started out in our first early years with creating these small learning communities. And these small learning communities, think of them as like a mini school within a school, where you've got a group of teachers who are all working in support of a group of students, versus we're all have a massive high school of over 2,000 students and we're trying to reach every child. But creating that smaller learning environment, which is really modeled after the middle schools. Middle schools have those smaller learning environments. But In doing so, when you have those SLCs, as we call them, you have on a weekly basis where all of our teachers across the content areas, whether it's the career and technical education teachers, or it's the math teacher, or it's the arts teachers, or the special education teacher, they're all coming together and they are working on how to best support students. And another piece of relationships is also creating relevance. So we are working together on a weekly basis to align our instruction so that we use this project-based learning model where we're going across contents, and I can walk into my English class and then into my science class and then into my health science class, and we're going to be teaching a theme that's consistent across all those classes. So my takeaway is, oh, I just heard about this in my math class, or I'm going to be writing about my findings from my math class in my English class, and I'm doing a presentation in front of our business partners. So it's all inclusive, but it really creates that relevance of that. We can get rid of that infamous question that we've always had in education of, why am I doing that?
Right.
We no longer have to wonder.
What's something that you wish everyone knew about the academies?
Something I wish everyone knew is that this is a community effort. I think too often we look at our work and say, well, the school district is doing that. And it's not. This is a community-driven effort in which is possible because all of the support that we have from our business partners and volunteers. And so for anyone who is out there and interested in learning more about the Academy work or would like to engage, we want to connect. So that's one thing I would say. Another thing I would like for others to know about the Academies of Nashville is that the work that we're doing here is not operating in a silo. The work that we're doing here in the Academies of Nashville has become a national and internationally recognized effort. There are school districts all over this country and across the seas that are utilizing this model to transform their own secondary school experience.
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk about engagement because, as you alluded to, that's the whole magic to this. And so talk about the many different ways the community can help. And we mentioned before, even job shadowing, internships, career fairs, there's a lot of them. So how can we help? Sure.
So there's so many opportunities, and you mentioned a few of them. And so oftentimes we look at that ninth grade year as an opportunity for students to do that career exploration. We have our career fair. They're exposed to the various opportunities. It's also where they're building out those 21st century skills, the professionalism. And so whether you are a smaller business or you're a large corporation, you can engage through guest speaking, job shadowing. We're always looking for internships, work-based learning opportunities for students. Your expertise and your knowledge to be able to share with students, whether that is through the hands-on learning or whether it be in the classroom and providing some guidance on the instruction and supports. There are a lot of ways that we seek for our partners to engage. I will tell you the greatest asset that our partners bring to us is not money, it's their expertise. We don't look for money, we look for expertise, and we look for value added to our Academies of Nashville. So any opportunity that one of our business partners or organization has to invest in bringing their expertise to serve students, that's where we can align our work.
What are some ideas on your end for businesses?
There's so many opportunities, and I think oftentimes what I would encourage our businesses is to think about is all of the entities that allow your business to function. So to say that we are only a audio-visual company, within that company, you probably have an HR department. You probably have some accounting work. You have some marketing. And so even in those professions, we're not necessarily concerned about that you offer only audio-visual. We're concerned about what other opportunities within that business structure can we also welcome students to learn more about. So that is something I would really encourage our partners to think about. when they're thinking of, we would like to provide some internship opportunities. And internship opportunities can occur in the summer. We have branded partners throughout our school district, and our branded partners are those who have made a fully invested into a specific academy. And in turn, that academy becomes branded with that business's name. For example, I'll use the U.S. Community Credit Union Academy of Business and Finance at McGavock High School. All right. Within our high school, and they're not the only one, we have one at the Tennessee Teachers Credit Union over Antioch. We have a bank. We have a fully functioning bank in which students beginning at the 9th grade level can begin not taking out loans, but developing savings accounts and checking accounts. And they're getting that experience throughout the school year. And in the summer, they're working at those credit unions, and those credit unions are supporting them through completion of their college. And then you're welcoming back opportunities to bring on students who have already had years of training with your business and organization onto being your full-time staff. So there's a lot of opportunities for our businesses to create pathways and pipelines to building great professionals in their business.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for watching the cityCURRENT Show, which is produced by cityCURRENT with funding provided by Lipscomb & Pitts Insurance, a Higginbotham company. To learn more about each of the guests, to share your stories of others, leading by example, or to watch past episodes and more media focused on good news, visit our website at citycurrent.com or follow along on social media using the handle or hashtag citycurrent. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and thank you for all you do to power the good.